In the summer of 2022, my friends and I found a place we weren't supposed to know about. It was an abandoned picnic area behind an old roadside motel just outside our town. The motel had been shut down for years after a fire damaged part of the building, and the whole property sat rotting behind a line of overgrown trees like everyone had agreed to forget it existed. That was exactly why we liked it. There were four of us who went there all the time: me, Tyler, Ben, and Chris. We'd park off the service road, slip through a gap in the chain link fence, and hang out at the cracked concrete tables behind the motel. Most nights, we'd just sit around, smoke, joke, and talk about getting out of our town one day. It felt cut off from everything. No traffic, no neighbors, no adults asking questions. The weirdest part of the place was the pool. It sat behind the motel, long drained and full of black rainwater, leaves, and trash. One of the old floodlights above it still worked, which made no sense because the rest of the property had no power. That one light gave off a weak yellow glow, just enough to reflect off the water and make it look like something was moving down there, even when it wasn't. I hated looking at it for too long. One Friday night, Tyler texted and told us he was heading there early. I got there about 20 minutes later, but his car wasn't outside. I figured he was just running late, so I climbed through the fence and headed to the back alone. The floodlight was on. The picnic tables were empty. The motel windows were black. Everything was dead quiet, except for the sound of insects and the faint drip of water somewhere inside the building. I waited for Tyler, then I texted him. No answer. After maybe 10 minutes, I heard a splash come from the drained pool. Not a small sound either. It was heavy, like someone had stepped into deep water. I froze and looked over. The yellow light barely reached the bottom, but I could see ripples spreading across the black water. I remember telling myself it had to be an animal, a raccoon maybe, something that had fallen in. Then I saw a hand slap against the inside wall of the pool. I stumbled back so fast I nearly fell. The hand disappeared immediately. No voice followed, no cry for help, just more ripples, then stillness. I ran. I didn't stop until I got back to my car. I sat there, breathing hard, staring at the fence, waiting for Tyler to show up, laughing and calling me an idiot. But he never came. The next day, his parents reported him missing. At first, I didn't tell anyone what I saw. I was scared they'd think I was lying, or worse, that I had something to do with it. Search teams checked the highways, the woods, drainage ditches, even nearby towns. The police questioned all of us more than once. Tyler's phone was found switched off, but his car was never located. A week later, Ben said we should go back and look around ourselves. I didn't want to, but we went. This time, Chris came too. The three of us climbed through the fence just after dark. The floodlight above the pool was already on, humming softly. I remember how wrong that felt, like the place had been waiting for us. We called Tyler's name a few times, mostly to make ourselves feel better. No answer. Then Chris stopped walking. There were people sitting on the far side of the drained pool. At first, I thought they were mannequins or something left behind from the motel because they were too still. 3 figures sitting in lawn chairs near the deep end, all facing the water. None of them moved, none of them spoke. And standing beside them was a 4th person. He was swaying gently, almost dancing to music only he could hear. He looked thin, tall, and wrong somehow, like his arms were a little too long for his body. His head was tilted down at the water, and every few seconds he'd rock side to side with this awful, relaxed rhythm. Ben whispered that we needed to leave. That was when the dancing man lifted his head and looked straight at us. Even from across the pool, I could see he was smiling. We turned and ran for the fence. I could hear footsteps behind us, not fast, just steady, like whoever it was knew we weren't getting far. Chris got through the fence first. Ben was right behind him. I looked back once and saw the man standing only a few yards away, still smiling, one hand hanging at his side. He wasn't chasing us anymore. He was holding something. A car key with a blue keychain. Tyler had that exact keychain. I knew because I'd made fun of him for it 100 times. We got out of there and called the police from the road. They searched the property that same night. They found the lawn chairs by the pool, but no people, no footprints, no Tyler. What they did find was his car. It was hidden in a garage behind the motel, covered with an old tarp. The seats were damp, and there was muddy water pooled in the trunk. Tyler was never found. A few months later, the motel was finally demolished. The pool was filled in with dirt and concrete. Most people in town moved on. They stopped talking about Tyler the same way people always do when enough time passes. But I still think about that night. About that hand against the pool wall. About those silent people watching the water. And about the man swaying under the yellow light, smiling at us like we'd interrupted something. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I wonder how many nights they had been down there before we ever noticed, and whether Tyler was already in the water when I first arrived.